use the word Jewish terror.
Jewish terrorists.
Yeah. You can't hear it enough on the media, but some of them, especially these who harm Palestinians, or even one of them murdered a Palestinian.
Just like that, just walked up.
It's terror.
Terror. Welcome to Women Ending War, the podcast where Palestinian and Israeli women talk about partnerships for peace, real solutions, and ideas for crafting a new world.
It's where we express our pain, anger, dreams, creativity, and vision, where hope is a conscious choice.
معاكم أميرة مسلم.
I'm Ilana Stockman.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Nava.
Hi, Lana.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me again.
My pleasure. It's been a while. Nava Rozolyo, one of the leaders of the protest movement in Israel, a powerful voice. You have a really powerful, clear voice of leadership and vision about what's going on in Israel today and what needs to happen for the future. Thanks for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So a lot has changed since we last spoke. Yes. First of all, last we spoke, I was with my co-host Eva Dalak, who is now in Costa Rica. The great Eva. She does a lot. She's now back home in Costa Rica, even though she'll be back here soon. And then I have another co-host, my Amira Musalam, who's usually here with me, but she's very busy right now dealing with a lot of what's going on in the West Bank right now. She has a group of she runs a civilian protective presence, a nonviolent civilian protective presence, and this week has been a really, really hard week. It's been hard for a long time. I think over 900 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by either the army or by settlers since October 7th. And this past week, someone who was a really big peace activist and known by everyone was killed by settler Yidon Levy, who just came.
We use the word Jewish terror.
Jewish terrorists.
Yeah. You can't hear it enough on the media, but some of them, especially these who harm Palestinians, or even one of them murdered a Palestinian.
Just like that, just walked up.
It's terror.
Terror. Yeah. So tell me what you're up to now. Tell us about what you're busy with.
We are still trying to replace Netanyahu's terrible government, Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir.
Yeah.
The war in Gaza still lasts. It's a political war. Everyone, I think a vast majority of the Israeli public knows that by this stage. When we last spoke, I think it was a year ago, you didn't hear a lot of voices in the Israeli public say that the war is unnecessary because the Hamas attack on October 7th was terrible. It was a terrible terror attack against Israel. They slaughtered Israeli people, innocent Israeli people, and the war at the beginning of it was the right thing to do for Israel. We tried to bring back the hostages. We tried to bring back security to Israel. But now it's been almost 2 years from October 7th. And at this point, there is no reason not to end the war and to get to a hostage deal all at once.
Right.
And to end the war. There is no reason but Netanyahu's own political survival.
Yeah. Even his own people have said it. Army people have said it. Generals are saying that there are no actual, military aims. And the whole world seems to be saying, even Israel's, allies around the world are turning against Israel at this point. Economic sanctions, political sanctions, and, all kinds of threats happening to the government. And Netanyahu doesn't seem to care.
I'm not sure what's the official excuse to the war at this point. Mm-hmm. It's a total victory, or
what does that even mean? They say, what is that?
Or sometimes they cynically use the hostages as an excuse to continue in the war. Mm. We need to bring back our hostages.
But the war hasn't done that. Nothing about military action has succeeded in getting back hostages.
Military pressure, as Netanyahu and his partners call it, only put the hostages in danger. Yeah. If you would have if you would have wanted to bring back the hostages, if you were serious, you could have agreed to a deal. There is a deal on the table. There are a few deals on the table. And Netanyahu just find an excuse every time why Hamas is the one that's not willing to make any compromises.
Yeah,
but
blaming all the time, blame.
Or they blame the court or the היועצת המשפטית,
the Attorney General,
of Israel, or the media or whatever. It's just an insult to people's intelligence. Just to blame everyone, but not to take any responsibility.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time speaking to hostage families, yes? I see you on social media sometimes.
Of course.
Yeah. So what do you hear from the hostage families?
Unfortunately, they're desperate. They know that it doesn't matter how much they're on the streets. They're calling Netanyahu to do the right thing. He doesn't care. I don't think that people should turn to Netanyahu and ask him to do the right thing because he doesn't want to hear. He's not the one that should be addressed to. I think his partners, maybe we can ask them to remember that they will be remembered in history as those who cooperated with terrible crimes against the public in Israel and, of course, people in Gaza. We need to remember that Netanyahu's government is not only sacrificing the hostages and the IDF soldiers. A lot of innocent people in Gaza are getting killed almost every day. Every day.
And we see these images of, Israeli soldiers shooting at people running for food. And that's awful. I mean, I can't get those images out of my head,
And a lot of people are dying from starving.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. I don't know. I'm not willing that these things will happen in my name.
Right.
Not in my name.
Right. Not in my name. Last week I was at a meeting with this group called the Forum 1325, which is a group of women trying to get more women around the table in negotiation. And my friend Nurit Orange Sternberg said, years from now, there's going to be a museum somewhere about what happened in Gaza. And we're going to be in that museum. And we're not going to be looking very good in that museum. That's what she said. She's like picturing how this is going to turn out, what our legacy as a people is going to be, like how we as a people and what our morality is, how we are going to be remembered forever for like eternity. And so she said that motivates her a lot to try to like change what we're doing in Gaza, to change all this policy of starvation. I mean, the starvation is policy. It's, part of Israel's
That's
government.
Netanyahu's policy.
Yeah.
I don't think the IDF is the one to blame because the IDF has to do what the government says, has to obey the policy of the government. And even the head of the IDF says that if you need to protect the national security, Israel security, we can protect the borders and just leave Gaza. We don't want to be in charge of civil society in Gaza. We don't want to control who gets food and when and where. We don't want to run this.
Right. I feel really, it's really tormenting for me thinking about the soldiers and what soldiers are going through. Because, the soldiers are our kids, For me, all my kids, soldiers, their spouses are soldiers.
They're torn.
Yeah. And now it's taking a toll also. We're seeing, an increase in PTSD among soldiers. The reports coming out about tens of thousands of soldiers, PTSD, an increase in suicide among soldiers. I mean, soldiers now going to prison, willing to go to prison so as not to go into Gaza anymore.
And a lot of them are depressed or have post-trauma. And I think most of the cases, we will hear about them maybe in years. Yeah. They're not writing or sharing publicly what they feel. I think they're traumatized, and we need to remember that the government is חוק ההשתמטות. How do you say it?
חוק ההשתמטות. The law giving exemptions to soldiers.
to Israeli ultra-Orthodox, to have an exempt from serving the army. So a lot of the pressure and a lot of the omes.
The burdens.
The burden.
Yeah.
Is on the same people that serve hundreds and days.
Yeah.
And they're not just traumatized. They have completely ran out and they make more mistakes and they're tired.
Yeah. And even the ones who aren't traumatized, like if you're not traumatized, if you're ever able to sort of block it out, the question is what's happening to your belief system? Because in order to carry out a lot of what's happening in Gaza, you have to be able to undergo this like complete dehumanization of Gazans where, and you have to be able to adopt an entire ideology about who Palestinians are. And so that worries me too. I'm worried about the future of Israel from like a lot of perspectives. One is, what you deal with a lot, which is the government and the governance and democracy and, and another is the PTSD, the trauma that soldiers are dealing with, that we're all dealing with. And another is the moral stance that so many people have taken in order to justify, the starving, the bombing, the shooting, and the occupation, the ongoing, all of that.
I don't think that the soldiers, when you look at a specific person, they're not bad people.
Right.
They know that they protect, maybe they're there to bring back the hostages or to protect the national security. The problem is with the high level, with the government. The government knows, Netanyahu's government and Smotrich and Ben Gvir, they just want to occupy Gaza and transfer the civils to somewhere else, I don't know where. And they just sell a bluff that the target is to protect Israel, to protect the national security. So they're the one to blame. I don't blame a specific soldier.
I totally understand what you're saying. So many soldiers come with a very heroic stance. They want to save the hostages. They want to protect their families. They want to protect their country. You hear that a lot, from soldiers. It's just that then they realize that they're not actually doing anything to protect hostages.
And they don't necessarily see the big picture. So they're not those to blame. We need to look at the big picture. And the big picture is that 2 years after October 7th, the war is nothing but political and serve nothing but Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir's government survival.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with the protest movement? I hear a lot from people not in Israel that they don't even know there's a protest movement. A lot of Palestinians also don't know there's a protest movement in Israel. A lot of, I don't know if you remember in our previous interview, Eva was surprised. She said, wow, so many people are going to be surprised to hear that not everybody supports Netanyahu. I don't know if you remember that exchange, but I was like, oh, really? Like they people just don't know. And then I keep hearing that. I hear it on like social media, on Facebook and everything. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about Israelis who don't support Netanyahu? It's like it's a shock. So what can you tell us about the protest movement today? Has it grown? Has it expanded?
So that's the most important thing that we need the world to know, that the vast majority of the Israeli people don't support the government, don't support Netanyahu. They're ashamed of Netanyahu's policy, Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir's policy. And the protest is not as big as it was before October 7th because a lot of people are tired,
sure.
Maybe on Miluim. They serve
They're
the
busy
army.
with,
They have their own problems, and I don't blame people that are too busy or maybe mioshim.
Despair, like
Despair,
they're just there's
because
a lot of
they
despair.
can't see the light, but we still have
people are like tired, not just like physically tired,
emotionally
tired,
they just
exhausted.
don't see the light. They don't want the war to continue. They're heartbroken by the hostages that are sacrificed by the government in Gaza, but they don't see how they can affect and change things. So not a lot of people, as it used to be before October 7th, go out, take to the streets, but there is still very stubborn גרעין מחאה.
There's a core, like a nucleus of people who are
nucleus
protesting.
of people that are still go to protest, mainly in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The hostage, כיכר החטופים, the hostage
the
square.
hostage square, yeah.
Yeah, or on Habima or on Kaplan near the Kiryat. So, and of course, Haifa, which is a very beautiful place, very inspiring. מעורר השראה.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Inspirational of coexistence, Jewish Arab coexistence.
Shared society.
And I think the thing that you can see of all of the places is we're not our government. We need the world to know, even if we can't do what the government do. We shout to the world that we wish to replace Netanyahu's government, to bring back democracy, which was what we fight for before October 7th. But it's still the same thing.
Excuse me.
Bring back all hostages, stop the world, save Israel from Netanyahu, save Israeli democracy, and we turn to the world, not only to Netanyahu's partners in Israel and to the legal system and the security system. We ask the world to help us, maybe by media covering what's happening in Israel, maybe not accepting Netanyahu for interviews, maybe just sharing with the world what's happening in Israel. That in order to stay in power, Netanyahu has made Israel pay so many prices. He turned up the society. He basically took over the legal system.
Yeah. He's breaking apart.
He's sacrificing not only the hostages and the IDF soldiers. Has a lot of atrocities in Gaza in our name.
Yeah. I feel like the protest movement has evolved. Is that true? I mean, even before the war, the protest movement was very much about trying to prevent Netanyahu from breaking the democratic system. And then after October 7th, it took a while, but when the protest movement started up again, it became about the hostages. And then it became about ending the war. And now it's really about really stopping what we're doing to the people of Gaza. And now for the first time, you're really seeing in the protest movements, the harder language, the language that used to be considered radical, talking about occupation, using the word genocide, using the word ethnic cleansing, talking about starvation and war crimes. I mean, you're seeing, I think, tell me if this is true, okay? Because you're more at the center than I am, but I'm feeling like you're seeing more language that towards the beginning of the protest was considered like too extreme. Let's not mention the occupation. Let's not have, Palestinian citizens of Israel speak. And now, is it changing? Is this just like a perception? I mean, has the protest movement evolved in its demands? Let's say.
Another thing that the protest movement shouts as much as it can is that Israel should have led a regional settlement agreement that includes bring back all hostages and acknowledging a Palestinian state, the two-state solution. Maybe it can be gradual, but Israel could have initiated the process. But since Netanyahu doesn't want to talk about the day after the war in Gaza, we've come to the point that the world forces that on Israel. We see more and more members of the UN that are stating that they are acknowledging a Palestinian state and Israel should just accept it. So instead of being part of it and lead it and have the benefits of it from a position of power, from
initiative, taking the initiative
and maybe affect it in ways that serves also the Israeli interests. Now it's forced on Israel, and we have paid, the Israeli people and Israel as a state have paid a lot of prices. We've lost Israel's reputation in the world. We've lost a lot of diplomatic connections. We've lost, you can see a new wave of anti-Semitism around the world because Netanyahu is just refusing to discuss anything, what's going to be in the day after. Do you want to annex Gaza? Do you want to go out of Gaza? Do you want to let the PA to run the Gaza Strip or the Gaza,
the West Bank?
The West Bank. It just refuses to speak about anything. So the world has lost patience, and they see the picture, the terrible things in Gaza, the atrocities in Gaza. So they have lost patience. So more and more countries around the world are just stating that they acknowledge independent Palestinian country in Gaza, and Israel has lost because, not Israel, but I would say Netanyahu and Hamas has lost because they're the one that doesn't want independent Palestinian states.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for 20 years, Netanyahu was funding Hamas. You know, Netanyahu was funding Hamas, which funded the
with money from Qatar.
With money from Qatar.
In cash, in suitcases.
Just for the purpose of preventing a Palestinian state. Thinking that if he funded Hamas, then he would weaken the PA.
You would make Hamas terror organization stronger by giving them a lot of money in cash. So we can't even know how much money was transferred from Qatar to Hamas, just to keep the terror control over Gaza, just not to acknowledge a Palestinian state. So, and he still do the same thing. He's just trying to prevent a Palestinian state at any price, even if that means that Israel would pay the price.
I mean, this story, this Qatar Gate story, basically, should have the power to blow everything up. I mean, to blow up the entire Netanyahu government. I mean, I don't understand how his supporters are not looking at this and understanding that Netanyahu 100% created this mess. He created this mess with his policies and and this money and these secret deals and basically
his closest consultants worked for Qatar. They received money from Qatar while they were working in his office.
How is this not blowing up? How is this? I don't understand. And all these polls show that if there was an election today, Bibi would still win. I don't understand this.
No, I don't think that's accurate. No, I think he has lost a lot of support, even from his traditional supporters. I think above 80% of the public in Israel wish to have elections immediately or anytime in the nearest future. And I think more than 50% of his supporters don't support him anymore.
Well, that's good news, because I keep reading these Ma'ariv polls. You know, one of the groups that I belong to posts these Ma'ariv polls all the time that seem to show that, Netanyahu is still...
Look, a lot of them are brainwashed, and they consume information from his propaganda channels, such as 14 channel.
Right.
That's a channel of pure propaganda, lies, and brainwash that puts him in a good light, or just basically lie. So I can't blame brainwash people. But I think even though he has a lot of propaganda channels and bots all over his social networks, I think people still know the truth that he sold national security, and he has betrayed his own voters. He promised them security. He promised them bright future, and he just supported his partners, such as the leaders of the ultra-Orthodox parties in the coalition, just to stay in power.
Yeah.
He gave money to Hamas and to his political partners just to stay in power.
Yeah.
I think a lot of his supporters know that. And he wouldn't have elections, I think. He would do anything to avoid elections. And he would do anything to avoid his own investigations.
So, I follow also Einav Zankauka. So it's interesting because she, on October 7th, she was from Ofakim, a big Likud mainstay.
She was a very, she supports Netanyahu. She supported Netanyahu. She was one of the traditional supporters of Netanyahu and the Likud.
Yeah, even as her son, Matan, is still a hostage. Yeah, and his girlfriend was a hostage and was returned.
She was released.
So, she's out there. I mean, I look at her like with immense awe, like, wow, how much energy she has to do everything to save her son. Like, wow, it's just like a model of motherhood or parenthood, and I also look at her evolution vis-a-vis Netanyahu, right? Because like for a few months at the beginning, she was like begging him. She's like, Netanyahu, I'm one of your supporters and all that. And slowly, she changed. And I wonder about that. I wonder how much she reflects Israeli. I wonder how much she reflects, the Likud base. Like, I don't know. Like, I wonder about that.
I think she knows that she shouldn't beg to Netanyahu and she should beg other people to save her son from Hamas and Netanyahu because both of them are refusing to accept a deal. I don't think she reflects the hardcore base of the Likud because if they're brainwashed and they don't have very clear reason to see that Netanyahu doesn't serve them, doesn't serve the people of Israel, doesn't serve anything but his own political survival. The core base of Netanyahu's supporter, it's like believing in a false Messiah.
Yeah.
Such as Shabtai Tzvi.
Yeah,
it's a false Messiah. They just believe in no matter what he does.
Interesting that you call him a false Messiah. Interesting. Tell me something, Nava. Have you changed over the past, let's say, year and 10 months or since, have you evolved in your ideas and your thinking?
Yeah. So you asked about the protest and how it changed after October 7th. And I think more and more people in the protest, even in the mainstream areas of the protest, knows that the war by now is political and it just should end. It's just too many death and suffer. And a lot of people ask, what can we do? Netanyahu is just refusing to end the war. And is there hope? And I think one of the things that changed in me and what brings me hope is to know that the key to end this terrible cycle of blood and death is thinking outside the box. What can we do that we haven't done before? And I think that the solution to everything is Jewish-Arab cooperation and coexistence. If we can reach to a even political, but not only before there will be an elections, even now in initiatives, in protests, in everything that we can, in having conventions together. I think what will break Hamas and Netanyahu is to know that the people are more strong and more powerful than the vicious leaders. And if we could cooperate and even gather political cooperation, that would have the power to replace Netanyahu's regime and Hamas regime.
So I mentioned that I was in Paris. Did I mention this? I don't know. I was in Paris in June for the Paris Peace Conference. Yeah. And there were about 500 Palestinian and Israeli activists together. And then we got there, and the second day...
It was on the same time that we were in a war with Iran at the same time.
Yeah,
so
we woke
you
up,
saw it
exactly.
from Paris.
Yes. The second day of the conference, we woke up to the news that that there was a war with Iran. I actually got a call in the middle of the night from a friend of mine in Houston. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What's happening?" And she said, "Oh, you should check your news." So that happened. But yeah, we all woke up on that Friday morning and it's like, oh no. Yeah. So, but anyway, even with that war and with everything, and with a lot of obstacles, there was a delegation of Gazans that was supposed to come, 30 or 40 people from Gaza, and they were stopped. They have all kinds of visa bureaucracy, I don't know what, political things that they weren't allowed to come. And then the people who were coming from the West Bank, they faced other obstacles. First of all, getting out and had to pass through borders. And also there was like a lot of hate, a lot of threats from within the Palestinian community also that they faced. But they came anyway, and everybody got there. And with all of that, and with all the fears about family, and with all the fears about how we're all going to get home, and a lot of people were stuck in Paris for, 2 weeks and things like that. With all that, we still did it.
Because the airport was closed because of the missile attack.
Yes. So
I think that gives hope to people. And I believed in Jewish-Arab cooperation even in the few first month after October 7th. But now I know that that's the key to solving, eventually to solving everything, the vicious circle that we're staying and I think the next elections should be refreshing with a Jewish-Arab cooperation. And I think the Democratic Party in Israel, Democratim, should lead this, the call, the Democratic Party should lead the call to, it's time to Jewish-Arab cooperation. Because otherwise we can't stay a democratic party, democratic country.
They were the only party, besides the Arab parties, to protect Ayman Odeh when he was being threatened with being removed from the Knesset. The Democratic, the Yair Golan and his team were the only party as a party that stood by Ayman Odeh.
Yeah, so Likud is Netanyahu's party. Likud members tried to remove from have him how do you say
remove him from the Knesset,
remove him from the Knesset, and the Democratic Party in Israel, Democratim by Yair Golan, was the only one that stood up next to him because it wasn't justified. There wasn't a legal justification to the initiation to remove him from the Knesset. Eventually some of Yesh Atid members, and I think Kachol Lavan,
like one or
members,
two,
Orit Farkash, and another one stood up next to him, and so this very fascist and racist initiation, they hasn't managed to do it, but I think the Democratic Party is the one that should, and I believe it would lead the Jewish-Arab cooperation, because otherwise Israel won't stay a democracy. Otherwise, mathematically, we can't
form
a liberal democratic coalition.
So the Democratic Party gives you some hope?
Yeah, and the society gives me hope.
Yeah.
It's not just to win the elections. We won't have a good future in Israel, a sane future in Israel, without cooperating and coexisting with our partners in Israel.
Yeah.
I believe that eventually we should have, we should aim to the two-state solution, and within Israel country, we should have equality, total equality to all citizens, total liberty, as
what does your
I have on my shirt.
Peace, freedom, equality,
equality, and justice. That should be the values of the new Israel, which was the values of the old Israel. That's the values of the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. Last time we interviewed you, you gave us a copy of Declaration of Independence as your, yeah, I remember that. All right. We have to end. It went by really fast as always. It's really great to talk to you. I urge everyone to follow Nava Rozolyo on X and
so
everywhere.
much.
Your voice is really powerful, clear criticism of what's going on and leading the protest movement, and also speaking to the people who are at the center, speaking to hostage families and lots of other people who are there every Saturday night at the center.
I wish next time that we speak, we will have all of them back home.
Yes.
And maybe there would be a independent Palestinian state by then.
You can pray. You can hope and pray and aspire.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. And keep up all your amazing work.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Women Ending War. If you want to help create change, you should join us.
Subscribe, like, comment, or share. Tell your friends about us. Talk about it. Be part of the solution.
Thanks, and see you next time.